So hopefully, as you're watching this, Falcon and Winter Soldier should be literally coming out tomorrow, the first episode, which is very, very exciting. So I thought today I would do a little podcast type thing with my beautiful buddy, Fraser Oliver, who I definitely won't call the fandom master this time.
I'm giving it 10 minutes before you call me the fandom master, to be honest.
No, I just won't refer to you. That's my plan.
It's just not going to talk to me. Great podcast this is going to be.
So let's start this off. Just overall, what are your excitement levels for this show? Obviously, a lot of this will be comparatively to WandaVision as well.
Yeah, so I think because WandaVision was so different to what we've seen from the MCU, I think it's good to have... Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, is going to be more classic MCU without the action and the fighting. And I guess just more... We're going to be in the MCU universe more than we were with WandaVision. Because obviously it was very... This is Westview. It didn't extend outside of Westview and the sort of research base. But I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be like open to everything, and it's gonna deal with the greater MCU, I feel, in a way that WandaVision didn't.
I think that is the exciting thing. I think this is probably the biggest test coming up. This is probably similar to Hawkeye for me in terms of like the most MCU connectivity, because WandaVision was obviously had a lot of sitcom in it. Loki is separate timeline, and then a lot of the other MCU shows are new characters. So are you kind of excited for those MCU connections to be brought out? How MCU-y do you want this to be?
Well, so the thing is like you said on there, that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is obviously going to be... It's characters we already know. They're already established. They don't have to try and establish characters. So for that reason, I think... Because the first 2 or 3 episodes of a series will usually be establishing the characters. So I think in Loki, the only character really that we know from the MCU will be Loki. So Owen Wilson's character, Richard D. Grant's character, the first 2 episodes, we need to be introduced to both of those characters. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier doesn't need to do that as much. So I'm hoping it's going to be on a large MCU scale. That's what I'm hoping for.
So talking about these characters, are these characters that you personally are excited? Do you think they work in the Disney Plus format? Do you think they should have stuck to the films? Do you think they should have had their own films?
I mean, I love both of these characters, obviously Falcon and Bucky. I love, and it's weird putting them in a series because with a film, obviously you watch start to finish in one sitting. And we talked about this in our WandaVision one, where there was chance to theorize in between episodes, which was the downfall, I think, of WandaVision. But it's going to be interesting to see how they keep the audience gripped to these characters, because I think both of these characters are characters that people love. But the thing that kept people gripped into WandaVision was that it was so out there. But because this is basically going to be a film in, what is it, 6 parts? How many parts is Falcon? 6, yeah. Because it's going to be a film just split into 6 parts. I'm worried that it won't have the same excitement and following around it because it's just basically a film they've split. So I think what more people are going to do is not watch it as they come out each week, but just watch it at the end in order as a film. So I'm going to watch it week by week, but I'm worried there won't be the same excitement around it as there was with WandaVision.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit with WandaVision, how the finale didn't feel like it lived up to that sort of MCU quality with the budget they had. Do you think that with a show that has to be MCU throughout, do you think that show can sustain MCU quality through a TV budget?
I think it can better than WandaVision. And the only reason I say that is the amount of CGI that you needed in WandaVision for Wanda's powers, for Vision as a whole, for Agatha's powers. There was so much CGI that had to go into that doesn't necessarily have to go into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because they're both humans. Like they don't need like a red magic every time they do something. They can just function as people. Yeah, obviously he flies, and the shield that needs some sort of CGI, but it doesn't need the same computer generated stuff to make it what it needs to be. So I'm hoping they can take that and put it into the series as a whole and not just on CGI, because I feel like WandaVision blew the budget on CGI, to be honest.
Do you actually think that WandaVision blew all its budget on some of the earlier CGI?
Have you seen the making of WandaVision yet?
Yes. Surprisingly, I thought the making of WandaVision was actually quite poor. In that, I grew up in the Doctor Who Confidential type of world, and it was kind of like, it didn't feel very much like how they did it. It was more just like a lot of like it was very interview based.
And I think so. There are obviously some effects in the earlier. If you haven't seen the making of WandaVision and you want to, probably skip this part of the video. But they did when they did like the effects in the earlier episodes. They actually did like with plates flying across. They had it on wires because that's how they would have done it back then, which I like. But then it got like Vision was like blue for the early episodes, and they had to CGI because it picked up better as being red in black and white, which is fair enough. But then they had to CGI the stuff onto Vision, and it was like, yeah, I feel most of their budget was blown on fancy effects more than the story and the plot advancing, in my opinion.
I mean, obviously, taking it back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, unlike WandaVision, where generally there's a lot of special effects flooded throughout, a lot of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier special effects, apart from the occasional green screen, is going to be on action. Now, are you more excited for the action elements of this, or are you more excited for the elements that have been promised in a sort of buddy cop type thing?
I'm excited for all of it, but mostly the action, because we haven't got true MCU action fighting in a while. Obviously, there was the 2 fight scenes in WandaVision, but so I'm really excited to see a proper MCU like action sequence of the shield everywhere and Falcon just flying doing flips. I cannot wait to see some proper MCU action sequences. That's what I'm hoping for most out of this, to be honest.
Has there been any action in the trailers that we've seen that has kind of like really piqued your interest?
The bit that I keep going back to, I will watch this bit, like not the whole trailer, just this bit of where they're like by the truck and Falcon will like fly under the truck. That whole bit, I'm like, that for me is MCU. Like that whole bit where Bucky's hanging off and Falcon just flies under it. It's like, yes, that is what I want.
I mean, surprisingly for me, the piece of action that actually looked the best to me is there's a little clip in, I think, a couple of the trailers of Emily Van Camp. So Sharon Carter, yes. and she seems to have a little bit of a fight scene. I think that's a brilliant transition on. So it's not just Falcon the Winter Soldier coming back. There are a few other characters. So
yes.
we do have a very much a Civil War through line where not only does it seem like this show stylistically is probably the most similar to something like a Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, but also you've got these characters. So you've got Sharon Carter, you've got Zemo coming back as well. What are your thoughts on those new characters kind of coming back?
Well, it, like you said there, it does make it feel like this is almost Captain America 4. Like that's what this feels like to me. It's like we're getting Captain America 4, but as a series. And I think as long as they execute those characters well, then I think it's going to be, it might be one of the best MCU series for Disney Plus. If they get it right, they have to completely nail the new characters. Whilst my worry is they're going to focus on the new characters more, or like to a deeper level than the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't want them to like sort of go, right, we need to focus on Sharon Carter, Zemo, people like that, and leave Bucky and Sam behind. That they need to get the balance, but I'm excited to see the new characters sort of come in and see how they react.
Now, I personally think, and this is one of my things, that this show could also suffer with the villain problem we saw in WandaVision, because I don't want to talk about WandaVision for too long, but you feel like with all of the aggressive threats that happened in WandaVision, especially in the finale, Hayward was the one that felt the most generic throughout and never really got anything to do in the end. And I can't say which villain is going to feel generic in this, but we already know that there is Zemo is coming back. Obviously, he isn't going to turn into a nice person anytime soon.
No.
you've got this new Captain America figure who has already we've kind of heard that it's not going to be a good character. There's going to be some form of antagonist, and then there seems to be this movement led by the girl who I think's from Solo.
Yes, yeah, maybe.
I think she was in Solo. But there seems to be that movement from that girl. I mean, obviously, maybe Zemo and the movement are one in the same. Do you think there'll be a villain problem, or is it the fact that with a series you need multiple villains to keep the plot lines fresh?
It's a difficult one, because this is something that isn't just a problem in the Disney Plus series, but it's a problem in movies in general. With there's a massive problem around villains in so many ways. I think I spoke about in one of my videos the whole problem of the villain is basically just an evil version of the hero. That's cool. It's not. It's boring, and that's one of the major villain problems. But the other one is the unexpected villain, or the twist villain. I don't like. I can't stand it when it's like they've been evil all along, especially when it feels like there's no need for that person to have been hiding, and they've just done it as like, hey, look, he was a good guy, but now he's not. I'm like, I get it, and I see what you're trying to do, but I hope they go a completely different direction here, because if they're trying to revolutionize the MCU, which they're trying to do with these series linking into the films and the whole like mention of the multiverse, everything like that, this could be an amazing time like for the MCU, as long as they execute like the three major things they need to execute here, and make sure any new heroes are well developed, but they don't lose sight of the old heroes that are still there. Any villains need to have some sort of reason. Villains that are just evil for evil is like, grow up. Like
Hayward.
Yeah, and especially in Hayward's case, when they go nowhere. It's like, you've been evil, you've built up, and you've done bugger all with it. So those are like the two main things I think they need to do, is focus on old heroes as well as new ones, and make sure the villains have a fleshed out enough backstory so that you care about the villains. Because I know you're not meant to like, oh yeah, support the villains, go on villains. Like, no one was there cheering on Thanos on the Battle of Earth, were they? But I feel like you still need to care enough about them so that when the heroes fight them, you're like, yeah, kill him because I don't like him, sort of thing.
Now, a lot of this show, as you said, it seems like Captain America 4 to you. A lot of this show is going to be based on Cap's legacy. Now, I don't really want to make this a discussion about whether Cap's going to come back, because I think that would probably be the downfall of WandaVision. And I don't think Chris Evans would be interested in coming back yet. But in terms of Cap's legacy, in terms of where our characters end up, I mean, how big a role do you think Cap's legacy is going to play? Will there be, for example, Cap's funeral? And do you reckon Sam will, at the end of this series, almost like WandaVision suiting up, do you reckon Sam at the end of this series will be in the Captain America suit going into future projects?
So I'll talk about sort of Cap's funeral first. If they do Cap's funeral, I don't want it to be a massive, like, half the episode.
No.
I think almost like they did with Tony's funeral in Endgame, it was like 5-minute scene of just panning through everyone.
Peggy in Civil War.
Yeah, that sort of thing, where it's very quick. It's because quick but effective. So like Tony's funeral, where you saw his original arc reactor floating off and then it zoomed past everyone, that was effective. Peggy's funeral, that was effective.
Something you don't need to see all the Avengers eating cake at his funeral.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't need to see Captain America's funeral and then the wake and all that. We don't need to see that. That's not important. What we need to see is the effects more than the event. But just show the effects on people around him. Don't show the actual events, because it doesn't really matter. And with regards to his legacy, I think that, for me, that needs to play the biggest role in this, I think, because that's what it's built around. It's literally the like tagline for the show is who will wield the shield. That's what we need to know. It's who is going to have that shield. And we've seen Sam throw the shield at a tree and sort of get to grips with it. And I think the shield is probably my favorite like prop from the MCU. Like, if I could have any prop, it would be the shield, because it'd be so cool to just have.
Just let me flex something. Is that why you keep going?
Oh no! There's no way you have the shield. I refuse to believe. But that for me is what would be the coolest thing. And
I don't have a shield, but I do have this.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what to say to that. That's wow. Just keep it in your background. Yeah, so I'm excited to see the whole wield the shield, and if that for me needs to almost be the focal point of the series, and everything happens like either as a what word am I looking for? Like as a repercussion of who wants the shield, or it leads to the shield. Like I think it all needs to be built around Cap's legacy, because that is obviously Bucky and Sam were like his closest friends, so it needs to be built around that. Otherwise, I think it will lose its direction a bit. And with Sam, you said obviously Wanda suits up in her full Scarlet Witch outfit at the end of WandaVision. I would be more excited if I saw Sam suit up as Captain America, like in the comics, than I was for Wanda. If he gets that whole outfit like in the comic, I will go mental. That will be like my life complete. That needs to happen, in my opinion.
I think for me, that would like the way to end this series is the villain's been vanquished. That's fun. But like I think if you can have like Sam suit up, maybe an action scene in this, maybe he suits up in the final episode and has an action scene in the suit. I think that to me is like it's important to have for example like the Black Captain America, but then also just for the journey of Sam in the MCU.
Yeah.
Like I've always been the advocate that Sam is the more interesting character to have it than Bucky, and I think that's what the show does for you. It means you don't have to do Captain America 4, but it gives you the journey of Sam from being given the shield to being Captain America, and that for me will be that's a big measuring stick of whether this show will succeed for me.
I agree, and I think the best way this series could end for me is Falcon suits up as Captain America about halfway through the final episode, and we see his whole like him starting to get what it is to be Captain America, and it ends with him like throwing the shield really cool, or something that just shows he is now he because I think he can't just wear the suit and go, hey, I'm Captain America. I think like you need to understand what it is to be Captain America, and I think that's might be the hardest thing for Sam. Is he's like, I can wear the suit, yes, I can have the shield, and I think the shield could end up being like a metaphor for the values and like what Captain America was, more as like the symbol and less as the person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think overall that I think that's what you want from the series. I think that's the way this show could really, really work for me, is if they do pull off that. A lot of this, like WandaVision, will ride not on the journey necessarily, but on the ending.
And I'm contemplating moving to sort of a bit of a tangent here, but sort of not. I'm contemplating not watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, not making any videos on it until the final episode, and then watching them all in order and making like a video of like I didn't watch any, like I waited this long to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier to like get the full effect and just see how it is, because once you've watched every episode, you can't watch them again with the same eye. Because like if you watch WandaVision again now, again, I don't want to talk about WandaVision too much, but if you watch it again now, you're constantly going to look at Agnes and go, oh, she did that. That shows that she was Agatha. And I think, I'm contemplating doing that. But I think it'll be difficult to stay away from any sort of spoilers. So I'm not sure what would, but I'm thinking about it.
I mean, I think my method of consuming it will be less extreme. I mean, I think generally I'm just going to stay away a bit more from like the Facebook posts, stay away a bit more from like the theory videos. I think I kind of want to make my own theories, but overall just enjoy the ride a little bit more, because definitely that last episode of WandaVision was just me going, where's the cameo? And like, you know, I don't want that experience to be the same, really.
I agree. The only good thing about the finale and the whole cameo of WandaVision was I made that banging video out of it.
That's such a funny video.
The only good thing that came out of that.
There's a card right now. Honestly, I will promote the hell out of that video because that was amazing.
That was really fun to film. It was so different for me, though. I thought, we'll just do it. 2 videos in a day as well.
I know, shock to all of us.
Now, come on now.
Something that I am really not sure how to feel about, and bearing in mind we don't know the context, I think it's been pretty much, I don't know if you know about this, and slight spoiler alert,
Ooh.
Sorry gang, it's been pretty much confirmed that War Machine will be in this at some point.
Yes.
In either, it could literally be a 5-minute scene, it could be like an action sequence, we have no idea what it is.
No.
Do you think that can work in context? Are you not sure? Are you just like, no?
Well, I love Don Cheadle as Rhodes and War Machine. I think he might be one of the most underrated heroes from the MCU. And I think his performance as Rhodes is phenomenal. And the way his wit and everything, I think he's brilliant. So as long as they use him in the right way and don't, because this isn't Falcon and the Winter Soldier and War Machine. Like, he doesn't need to play a massive role. Like you said, just an action sequence where they need like backup and he flies in, and like that's all we need. We don't need he shouldn't be there for more than like half an episode, in my opinion, because then it turns into the focus is on him and people get too focused on him and go, oh, is he coming back? Maybe he'll be in there later episodes. Like, no, just have him in there as a 5-10 minute cameo and we'll be fine, because I like him and I know he's in Armor Wars. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And so he doesn't need to play a massive part in this series. But I'm excited he's in it. Yeah, I'm genuinely excited. I love him. I think he's brilliant.
I think, building on your point, I think the best way to probably use him is, I mean, I know Sharon Carter is probably acting as your better idea of comparatively the Darcys and Jimmy Woos of that type of MCU connection, but still having that character who could pop in for half an episode, legitimize this as like an actual part of the MCU, have a fun role, but like add to the plot and not take away from it. That would be the best way to use his character. And if they pull it off, it's an addition to the series.
Yeah, because I think, that is something that's really important, or is going to be really important with these MCU series, is making sure you establish whether it's a part of the greater MCU or not. So, like you said in WandaVision, having Jimmy Woo, having Darcy, and having Monica, who are 3 characters who we've seen in the MCU before, seeing them come in and play a role in it, it goes, oh, okay, this isn't just happening in some remote corner of the world. This is part of the MCU. And I think that's the same sort of role that Sharon Carter, War Machine, will play in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, showing that this isn't happening with the whole MCU, but it still will affect it. And I think that's what we need with every series, is just clarifying. Like Loki, I don't think will affect massively the MCU at all. Looking at the trailers and what we've seen, I'm not sure it's going to have a massive effect on the MCU.
I mean, I think the only way Loki kind of affects the MCU is if using the Time Variance Authority Society, some bollocks like that. If that then ends up coming back into the main timeline, that's the only way that should affect it. But then again, I mean, don't talk about Loki too much. There'll probably be a similar podcast like this about Loki, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, he's died so many times, you don't want him back in it.
It's
I'm good if they want to do the Loki series for 3-4 series and that's a show I'm happy to be the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it just spins off and doesn't really tie back anymore.
It just goes its own direction completely. I think that would be a better direction for Loki to go in, actually, than to try and fit in.
That's probably what we're talking about with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is that's exactly what we don't want it to do, because WandaVision can sometimes you feel if the films create a timeline like that, you want Loki to go off like that. WandaVision kind of does a little bit of that, where it's kind of like sidesteps a lot of the MCU in a way. A show like Falcon and Winter Soldier, you want to have a little sidestep, maybe. You kind of do want it to run pretty much alongside the main MCU timeline.
Yeah, I think it needs to. Yeah, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier needs to run parallel to what we already know about the MCU, and not really veer off too much, because that's what WandaVision was. It was like it is part of the MCU, but it's also completely different and completely off track. So I think coming back and having Falcon and Winter Soldier being this is with the MCU, I think that would be the best. I think that's what we need from it.
Is there anything you feel that you'd like to address about the show?
No, I think we've covered sort of all the points I had in my head of what I wanted to talk about. I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head there.
So I think
amazing.
Overall summary is there's probably a bit less pressure on this than WandaVision, because I think there's a base level where I don't think you think with these two leads how bad can actually be, but I think it can definitely be a mediocre, or it could be with if they use the longer format correctly, it could be up there with the Winter Soldiers, with the Civil Wars.
Yeah, it could be Captain America 4, like on that level of a big budget MCU feature film, if they do it right. If not, it'll probably flop and be a bit of a shambles.
Well, Fraser, it is always a pleasure, as always.
You're too kind.
Well, So we do have a little plug. I know, right?
Ooh.
Don't worry, this video isn't sponsored.
Can you imagine? #gifted.
So in the description along the card is a new channel. I know, right? You're all
calm
quaking.
down.
So that is our new podcast channel. That's right. The Mediocre at Best podcast is coming.
Oh, get excited. And it's not just the podcast, is it, James? We'll be throwing some random any random videos we want to try out, random collabs we end up doing, will be thrown on there.
So pretty much, if you like me, you like him, there'll be long-form podcasts, there'll be obviously clips from the podcast, and there'll be videos where, for example, for me, if I want to do something that isn't nerdy, that's the channel I'm going to whack it up on. So you want more me? Go subscribe.
Yeah, I think it'll always be just like a second channel for both of us, where we could, like, if there's anything we want to do, but we don't think it would fit on our channels or anything like that, we'll probably just chuck it on there. Along with our top-notch podcasts they're gonna be amazing. Our podcasts.
Oh yeah, the podcasts are going to be the highlight, and
basically just like these, but more regular.
These more regular and probably a little less formal. I reckon. Yeah. Knowing us, we'll probably get a couple of drinks in us and enjoy it.
Indeed.
Well, and on that note, subscribe to this channel, that channel, and all of the channels, every channel on YouTube. Just subscribe to them all. Come on.
There's got to be like a world record for that.
Boost our egos. Come on, do it.
Subscribe to every single channel there is.
Bye.
Toodle pip.